Imagine being a little girl, plucked from the streets into the glittering world of a music mogul, only to vanish without a trace. What started as a heartwarming tale of rescue turned into a nightmare of secrets, exploitation, and fear. This is the story of a child caught in the shadows of power, and the chilling truths that are finally coming to light. It all began during the height of the pandemic, when a famous entrepreneur announced he'd taken in a young white girl, welcoming her into his lavish family life. He shared the moment live on social media, beaming with pride as she introduced herself, blending her name with his. She spoke softly about being on the streets until he spotted her, invited her inside to play with his kids, and decided to make her part of the family. It seemed like a generous act, a billionaire stepping up to help a kid in need during tough times. Who wouldn't root for that? But looking back, the whole thing felt off, like a scripted performance, hiding something darker. As the video unfolded, he went out of his way to explain himself, comparing it to other celebrities who'd adopted children from different backgrounds. He insisted he'd gotten permission from her parents, emphasizing how he wanted her to experience care from someone like him. She nodded along, but her eyes told a different story, nervous, awkward, surrounded by grown men in a room that felt too intense for a child. At the time, no one dug deeper. Rumors swirled in the industry, but he was untouchable, an icon people admired. Yet, that live stream planted seeds of doubt. Why the rushed justifications? Why force her to recite the story on camera? Fast forward, and she disappeared as suddenly as she'd arrived. No more photos, no family updates, nothing. It was like she'd been erased. Now, with federal investigations cracking open his world, former insiders are speaking up. One ex-bodyguard, a guy who'd been by his side for years, dropped bombshells. He claimed the adoption wasn't about kindness, it was a stunt for good press during isolation. Once the spotlight faded, she was gone, but not without leaving traces of something sinister. Whispers of hidden recordings, questionable parties, and exploitation that no child should endure. The feds raided his properties, hunting for evidence of trafficking, underage involvement, and more. They weren't there by accident. Lawsuits had piled up, painting a picture of control, threats, and a network of enablers. This isn't just about one man, it's an industry rotten at the core. For decades, stories like this circulated behind closed doors. People knew, but fear kept them silent. He had a reputation for making problems vanish, intimidating anyone who crossed him. Bail denied twice, even with millions on the line, because prosecutors worried he'd tamper with witnesses. His own homes, his mother's property, all collateral that couldn't buy his freedom. And now, details emerged tying his sons to the mess. They were there from the start, allegedly part of the circle that enabled it all. Why were only the boys in that video? Where were the daughters she'd mentioned loving to visit? It raises heartbreaking questions. Was she shielded from real family warmth, exposed instead to dangers while his own kids stayed safe? The raids uncovered devices, photos, videos, potentially damning proof of gatherings that crossed every line. Insiders say they're scouring for images of young girls in compromising situations, building a case that could shatter lives. One theory even links her to a missing teen from years ago, with age-progressed photos that match eerily. Social media sleuths found old clips of a girl in hotels with older men, sparking fears she'd been pulled into a hidden world. And then there's the connection to other stars' adoption scandals. Parents tricked kids, promised education, but ending up in foreign homes under false pretenses. He name-dropped those cases to defend himself, but it only fueled suspicion. Why invoke controversies if everything was above board? If this story touches your heart, please share it. The more eyes on it, the harder it is for truths to stay buried. As accusations mount, his lawyers scrambled, calling it a witch hunt. Meritless claims from civil suits. But federal agents fired back. This is no random probe. Specific, credible allegations of trafficking demand action. His empire crumbled, properties sold, lawsuits from the 90s resurfacing, attempts to flee the country thwarted, passports seized, even from his youngest child. Imagine the level of scrutiny where a toddler's travel is restricted. Victims' stories pour out, women drugged, assaulted, recorded without consent. Parties that started fun but turned nightmarish. One claimed he spiked her drink, took her to a studio, and attacked her while she couldn't fight back. Another detailed emotional manipulation, physical harm, coercion into acts with his powerful friends, his rivals, long ignored, now vindicated. One foe, who's been calling him out for years, announced a documentary packed with evidence, including hints about her fate. It promises to expose the tapes, the enablers, the full scope. Meanwhile, his sons defend him fiercely, dismissing books and diaries from his late partner as fakes. She died under suspicious circumstances, officially pneumonia. But whispers of foul play linger, especially with entries describing abuse. The boys issued statements. No book, no wrongdoing. But their loyalty feels strained, like kids trapped in a toxic web. Dig deeper into the family, and patterns emerge. His son's talented privilege seems sabotaged at every turn. One had a promising football scholarship, but an explosive incident derailed it. The father allegedly stormed a locker room, wielding a weight like a weapon against the coach. Arrests followed, career stalled. Another pursued acting, landing a major role, only for demands over music rights to tank the deal. The show became a hit without him. Music careers. Blocked behind-the-scenes calls to labels, orders to dim their shine. Producers recall sessions where excitement for the son's work was met with jealousy. Where's my music? It's as if he couldn't let them eclipse him. Clipping wings just as they spread. Mothers spoke out to one blasted him for steering her son toward trouble, away from elite schools into chaos. Crashes, debts, legal woes piled up. Another assault claim dragged a son in, lured to the city, held captive, abused by multiple men. Heartbreaking if true, it shows how far the poison spread. Yet they rally around him, wearing slogans in court, dropping tracks that sound like pleas for approval. One song, timed suspiciously after trials eased, screams loyalty but hints at deeper pain. Is it devotion or desperation? This cycle of control extended beyond family. Employees endured cruelty, working endlessly, only to turn on him now with proof. Bodyguards. Yes men, they enabled the empire but couldn't stomach it forever. The industry, complicit, sweeping scandals under rugs while stars like him thrived. Other names float, sexual charges buried by publicists. Stories hushed to protect the machine. But no more. Lawsuits from decades ago resurface. Victims emboldened. What started with one brave accuser snowballed into a reckoning. In the end, her story, the vanished girl, crystallizes the horror. Was it all a facade? Hiding, trafficking, tapes, trauma? The feds dig on. Trials loom, and the industry quakes. Justice might finally prevail, exposing not just one man, but a system that protected him. For her, for all victims, this exposure brings hope amid the tragedy. If you felt the weight of this tale, hit like, subscribe for more truths, and share widely. Silence ends here. Let's amplify the voices that deserve to be heard.